Brotherton's Books and Publishing with your host, Mary Brotherton, and me. My name is Yvonne Mason. And every second Tuesday, whatever Tuesday this is, we
It
host,
is the second Tuesday.
we host a free workshop for authors that are already published, for writers who have a desire to be published, and for the general public who
And the
are
readers who read our books.
and for readers who read our books. And there's a reason for this. First of all, the workshop explains many things. Today we're going to talk about how to write a review, how to take a review and flip it on its head, how not to get personally offended by the stupidity of people's thinking when they don't know how to write a review, how to understand that reviews are like opinions and everyone has one.
Ooh. And you know what? Those opinions are only good to the person who's wearing it.
Exactly. So, as a backstory, when my late husband was alive, and we would watch the two movie critics that used to come on some of the talk shows all the time. I forgot their names. That's how much of an impression they made on me.
Sister
And
and
they would,
Ebert.
yeah, them. And they would give a movie a bad rating because they personally didn't like it or understand it. Jack and I would hop in the SUV and we'd hop over to the movie theater and we would watch it. I would give my own review. And
Just
my
to see if they were right.
yeah, and my thought process never failed me. The reason being is because I looked at those movies through a different lens. One of the movies I remember they gave a horrible review to was the reboot of Dark Shadows with Johnny Depp.
Oh, I loved it.
It was hysterical. It was absolutely hysterical, but they gave it a bad review.
It was meant to be funny and campy.
It was, and snarky and sarcastic and sardonic. But you have to understand that people of mine and Mary's generation might have looked at that movie through the lens of the old Dark Shadows. You can't with Fright. You can't do that. You have to understand that the reboot with Tim Burton was a play on Dark Shadows. It was meant to be sarcastic. It was meant to be satire. It was meant to be Johnny Depp as Barnabas Collins.
At his very best.
Absolutely. So my review was objective. Movies, books, art, and music, TV shows are all subjective. And that means that they are all subjective to the person who is watching, hearing it being sung, seeing the painting, or reading. And when you do all of those things with a closed mind, you lose so much. When the second Beetlejuice came out, chat message, who's on
It's
chat?
Helen. She's saying hello.
Hello, Helen.
Helen is one of our newest authors coming on board to Midnight Publishing.
Glad you're here, Helen. So, when Beetlejuice came out, I went and saw it. Actually, I saw it on TV. And again, people were just jumping up and down because they had the misconception that it was going to be a continuation of the first movie. It was not. It was the movie through the eyes of the granddaughter. And you had to look at that movie through her eyes. It was hysterical. Because she couldn't understand why her mother and her grandmother talked about this thing in this house that couldn't possibly be. So when you change your way of viewing, whether it's the written word, a painting, music, movie, you open yourself up to all kinds of different things. So with that being said, Mary, what have you got?
Oh my goodness, I have so much to talk about. I really do. Number one, I want to talk about what a book review does.
You're going in and out for some reason.
Pardon me?
Why are you going in and out?
Oh, probably because I don't have a file. I'm going to shrink it and see if that helps.
Okay,
Any better?
better.
Okay. I guess my computer goes, well, she just wants to read this document. She doesn't want to be on the podcast. I don't know. You know, the very best book reviews are supposed to provide insight into a book. Sometimes they're witty. There may or may not be a cultural context. The worst book reviews rely on opinion. They're just basically a rant. And typically they miss the point of the book. Now, actually I found out, I learned a new phrase while I was doing my research for this. They call a book pan, which is like a scathing book review. Even if a book isn't your favorite or a monumental success on the financial markets, that doesn't mean the book's not worthy of a good book review. Poor and controversial reviews often miss the author's intent. Here's an example. Opinions on historic critiques. Like when Isaac Asimov reviewed George Orwell's 1984,
One of my favorite books.
Asimov didn't like it. He had mixed emotions about it. He argued that the focus was too narrow or it relied on superficial science fiction. Well, that's what science fiction is. And he shied away from the political message that was buried in there.
Big Brother is watching you.
More so than ever.
Ever before.
Whew. Typically, the best book reviews aren't just a simple social media post. But they don't have to be, but a lot of them become legendary pieces of literary criticism. And like the New York Times will do a book review, the Publishers Weekly, which I prefer to the New York Times, will have classics or glowing praise that actually launch a masterpiece because they pay attention to it. The shortest book review on record is just simply the word wow. With the information about they put the title of the book or whatever, but they just say wow. The second shortest was about David Levitt's novel called The Page Turner. The book review was, it's not. That sounds like something you would find fun. And it's fine. You don't have to go into a great detail. And that's what I want our readers to realize. One of the reasons that we're always preaching, do a book review. The world has changed. It's not 1888 and the early 1900s when Lewis Carroll and Ernest Hemingway were out there peddling their books. We rely on the book reviews just like people rely on Yelp reviews or Google reviews to know, because we don't hang out at the fence or at the clothesline and share gossip, and we don't share stories like we used to. We don't go to, in my mother's day, they had what they called chivaries because they didn't have telephones. My mother actually told me about a time when she was growing up in the Great Depression. They had a man, I think it was Mr. Smoke, who rode a horse. He was literally the town crier. He would ride a horse from country home to country home, knock on the door and say, Miss Stoney, have you heard? Miss Jones down the street's about to have a baby. We're all getting together to go to her house and bring her cake and gifts and whatnot. Or, oh, did you hear the Smiths have a new son-in-law? And they would go and have a party at these people's homes to celebrate whatever was happening in the neighborhood. We don't do that. We have smartphones and texting and smart watches and Google and Facebook and all this social media, which can be a little intimidating even to the younger generations. I know a few millennials and whatever the next generation is that do not want to use or rely on social media. They think it's dehumanizing. But until we get to a point where we're doing another way, we need those book reviews. On Amazon especially, and Goodreads, those are two of the best places to leave a book review. You can leave a 5-star, what do they call it? One's a book review and one's a rating. You can leave a 5-star rating or 1-star rating without a book review. But the review lends credibility. People will come back and read it and judge it helpful or not helpful. You know, there are like 4 main components to a book review. The first one is you need to have the name of the book and the author. You can't just go on and say, I read a book, I liked it. Okay, which book? I get spam mail constantly, I mean, multiple times a day. Sometimes it's in my spam folder, sometimes it's just in my email. Oh, Mary, I just read your book and I was fascinated. You're such a great storyteller. We'd like to feature you in our whatever it is, the flavor of the month. It's going to cost $99.99. But they don't tell you the 99 part up front. They wait till they think they've got you hooked. But I either ignore those or I go back. Mischievous mood. I want to make them work for it. What book? Because if they give me enough information, I can then turn what they say into a review. Get more on that in a little bit. But after you have the name of the book and the name of the author, you need to do a quick little summary. What is the story about? Don't spoil the ending. For instance, if I wanted to write a book review about Silent Scream, one of Yvonne's most widely read, most widely translated, most documented book in her catalog, and I think she's got almost 36 books in her catalog. A Silent Scream, I would say, and I haven't read it because it's not my style, but just knowing what the book is about, I could review it and say, Silent Scream may not be to my particular taste, but it is a book about a serial killer and the search for justice for his victims. That's all I need to say. I don't need to get into the nitty-gritty of whether or not it's properly edited, whether or not she followed police protocol. I want to give a little critique of the book without getting too nitty-gritty. Then, if you really want to write a good book review, you need to talk about what makes the book good or what makes the book bad. Silent Scream, in my opinion, is not a book I would buy because it's a very graphic book about serial killers. What makes it good is that it shines a light on the young women that were murdered by a man that had no remorse. Would you recommend this book? Would you give it 5 stars? That's the final thing. I mean, you can say, I recommend this book for everyone who's interested in true crime.
Our police
Or-
procedure.
Or police procedure.
Or
You
even-
might,
Forensic science history, because at that particular time there was no forensic science.
right.
Jack and them made a shifter out of wood and front door screen to shift the sand, looking for more evidence over on South Hutchinson Island. That was the only way they found some of the teeth. So that particular book was the beginning. It was also the birth of FBI profiling. The FBI agent that wrote the foreword to the book, who is now deceased, he set up FBI profiling and created that department because of Schaefer.
So if you're a fan of things like Criminal Minds on TV, or CSI Miami, CSI whatever, wherever they are. I mean, clearly there are fans of the criminal services, what is it called?
Criminal justice system.
The CSI, what does that stand for?
That's criminal. I forget.
Well, there've got to be millions, if not billions, of fans because they have CSI. They have CSI Miami, CSI Australia, CSI New York, CSI Las Vegas. And I might be wrong. Don't quote me. I don't watch the show. I used to watch Criminal Minds when my niece lived here because she was with me. I'm a real big softy. I'm a big chicken. Midsummer Murders is my speed, is what Helen just said. I forgot to make the ducks swim by.
I like Midsummer Murders too. However, I have a tendency to yell at the television.
Well, after my niece, who stayed with us for almost 4 months, after she moved on to her next assignment, I tried to watch Criminal Minds without her, and I found myself curled up under the blanket, chewing on the edge of the blanket because it was just too much for me. I'm too deep of an empath to be able to handle that, and that's okay. And that's the kind of stuff that I would put in a book review for something like this. You know, empath, you may not want to read this book.
I'm an empath that I wrote it. The backstory to that, and ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you, this book took months and months and months and months of research, interviews with the attorney that was his part of his defense team, with the state attorney, with police, with detectives that worked that crime, with pulling evidence from the evidence locker. Months and months of research. And I don't sleep much. But one night, I finally went to sleep. And I sat up in the middle of the bed, and this voice says, I am going to kill you. It was Schaefer. But he was already dead.
Oh my.
Because he was killed in prison. But because when Schaefer was alive, there was a journalist who wanted to write that book. And because Schaefer threatened to kill him and his family, the guy let it go by the wayside. And that was right after that all happened. So
Now, Schaefer was a deputy, was he not?
in Martin County, yeah.
Wow.
But it took that many years for that story to come to, and those girls had been forgotten, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody even knew who he was anymore. Nobody even knew who the girls were. That's what prompted me to write the book. Now, since that book has come out, all of a sudden people are crawling out of the woodwork talking about Schaefer. they've seen me on TV about the book. They've seen me on videos about the book, and they're all crawling out of the woodwork.
Well, weren't you recently interviewed because of that book?
The last time I was interviewed was several years ago. The one I'm going to be interviewed about was about another murder that happened down the street from where I used to live. He was a tax accountant.
Did you
And
write a book about that one?
no, I just knew the murder very well.
Well, there you go then.
I have become the resident expert about criminal minds.
Okay, I like butterflies.
But ladies and gentlemen, this is what we're talking about. Because my mind works that way, because my degree is criminal justice, because I've studied criminals since I was a little girl, Mary. I mean, the first thing I read about as a child was Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, that's pretty dark.
I was 13. So I understand that just because you personally don't care for a book after you have read everything about it before you even bought the book, and then you thought the book and thought it was going to be a puff piece and it was written by me, I'm telling you, no. Unless it says comedy or dramedy or historical fiction, if it says true crime, if you don't have a stomach for it, or you don't understand police procedure, or you don't understand that what I write is not a puff piece for true crime, please don't waste your money. Because if you give me a bad review, I will take that review and I will flip it on its head and I will tell you, well, you shouldn't have read the book. That's all on you, sister or brother. Because you were
Do you
warned.
know how long the longest book review is?
No. How long?
Hold on to your top hat.
Uh-oh.
This is a Guinness Book World Record.
What they do, rewrite the book in a book review?
The novel was called One Step Short to the Moon, IIT versus Love. Never heard of that book before. But the longest book review, it was written on an online website, so it was like a blog, I guess. It took the man 14 hours to write it. It was 3,685 word review that had 43 images in it.
He could have written his own novel.
Yeah, I didn't understand that.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's not a book review. That's stupidity on a whole new level.
That's an, what do they call it, expose?
Yeah, he could have written he could have written his own novel.
So you don't have to write a long book review. I'll give you some examples of really short book reviews that I think would help our readers, our watchers, listeners, readers, whatever. The book is called James by Percival Everett.
Never heard
And
of
the
that one.
reviewer said, it's a brilliant, subversive reimagining of the adventures of Huckleberry Finn, told from Jim's perspective. That's it. That's all you need to know. The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. The review said, a community-focused, deeply moving historical novel praised for its rich humanity. Another book called Rave by Reynold Getz. A fragmented, hypnotic 1988 classic on 1990s techno culture newly making waves in English translation. That sentence is kind of annoying to me
Very annoying.
because it's really a fragmented sentence. It's not but they call that a book review, and they say that qualifies as a book review. So you don't have to be a Pulitzer Prize winning or any kind of award winning author to write a book review. A lot of people are intimidated by the idea when we say, please write a book review. Well, I'm not a writer. I don't know how to do that. You don't have to do it particularly well. Give it a thumbs up. Give it a thumbs down. Give it 1 star. Give it 5 stars. say, I like it, I love it, I hate it, this sucks, this is great, this is awesome. Choose one. Now, I do think that Amazon has a minimum word count, or maybe it's characters, but I think it's like 50. That's nothing. That's absolutely nothing.
It's 3 sentences with periods and commas.
Now, here's a book, I'll review about the same one that Rave, that was a Hypnotic 1988 fragment, whatever. This is a better review, I think. Meet girls, take drugs, listen to music. In Rave, cult German novelist Reinhold Getz takes a headlong dive into 90s techno culture. That is a much better review. And I'm just going to look at it real fast here and see how many words that is. That's 23 words. Now, I don't know if that was done on Amazon, but all of your book reviews don't need to be on Amazon. They can be on your own blog, they can be on social media, they can be on Goodreads. But please, 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 especially if you have read a book by an independent author, an indie author, that you know, that you have followed, that you can reach out to, copy the link to that book review and send it to them in email, on social media. It makes our hearts just go boom, 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 boom. We love that. It makes us feel good, even if what you're saying is negative. We don't
Because
care.
then we take the negative and we flip it. Tell them about the negative review from Murder in the Village that we just roared over.
Oh, let me find that. I've actually got it written down here. Oop, whoop, whoop, hold on, I hit the wrong button.
Ladies and gentlemen, that review made my day because the person that wrote it literally, without them knowing it, put the stamp of approval on that book.
Yeah. I mean, this is one, before I get to that one, I want to read 3 really good reviews. Read it in 2 days, love the twist, author leaves you wanting to read more. What a fun book to read. It was very easy to read and very hard to put down. Great job. I can't wait for the sequel. And then my 94-year-old mother just finished reading this book and she couldn't put it down. She loved it. I heard her giggling a few times while she was engrossed in reading. She was so riveted to her reading, she didn't want to stop to eat dinner with us. I'm reading it now and loving it. Now here's the one. They got a 1 star out of 5. This book is a ruse to gossip about people she doesn't like. She who? You know, the character in the book. I may or may not be a character that the writer, self-published author, created. I live in the same trailer park where this book takes place. We are a vibrant adults who have many years ahead of us, and we establish relationships that sometimes grow physical and even result in marriage. Ooh la la. I'm unaware of the relationships that she is purportedly saying have taken place between the married people whom she makes no real effort to conceal their identities. Guilty much? She does seem to be a woman scorned and is on a mission to hurt people. Her book is being passed around the park more than the character Lala. Everyone knows who the characters are. The only southern flavor I find in this book is the influence of her lover JD, whom she likes to call Coffee. It might explain, I've read this so many times, but I just got the connection because you love coffee so much. It might explain the obvious torment that she suffers that causes her to act out in such a way. The book isn't a page turner. It's paragraph after paragraph of bizarre situations conjured up in a tormented mind, which is clearly in need of psychological guidance to be healed from her abuse, so that she doesn't continue to cycle as the abuser and live her remaining years peacefully. Hurt people hurt people. Yvonne is hurting with a sad little face.
Now, let's tear that apart, ladies and gentlemen. Number one, she got the character wrong because JD is a detective. Number two, if it was not a page turner, why did she keep reading it? Number three, pot kettle, because the person that is writing this review is an abuser. She's abused just about everybody in this park. When I made a post several years ago that I was going to write a book with her in it, she was bragging all over the park that I was going to write a book about her. Little did she know that when the book came out, that she was the protagonist. She brought it on herself.
What I love though is the number of book reviews that this book got.
Right.
Her little 1 star didn't detract very much at all from all your 5 stars. And everybody thought it was a great read. Were there mistakes in it? Yeah, maybe. Do I care? I mean, I'm an editor and I usually pick those things apart. But I read this book with such, I don't even know what the word is I'm looking for. That's sad. Ardor, I think, is the word I'm looking for. As soon as I picked it up, I started reading it, and by the end of the first paragraph, I was hooked. I did not stop reading until I was finished. It's not a long book. It's not a hard book to read. It doesn't take long to finish it. But even if it had been 500 pages, I think I might have been like 94-year-old mama and not been able to put it down.
Well, a friend of mine had it in a restaurant reading it. We were trying to eat dinner. But, ladies and gentlemen, the thing is, there's another review that the HOA president wrote, 2 lines, and it was a nasty review. But I also flipped that one on its head. And my philosophy is this. Guilty dogs will always bark. Always. And someone who has something to hide, who is nasty within their own life, who has a character of being nice, nasty to other people, they will always deflect. I call them narcissistic sociopaths. They will always deflect. I lived with one. I was married to one. And everything is always someone else's fault. And this is what this person did. Everything was everybody else's fault. Nothing was ever her fault. She never did anything wrong.
No accountability.
So when this book came out, her true character came through. And that's what made it popular. And second of all, we don't live in a trailer park. We live in a mobile home community. There is a difference. A big difference. Part of it's the rent.
You've got an HOA, for crying out loud.
Well, they're as worthless as tits on a boar hog, but that's another whole story.
Well, that's true, but still, the fact that it has an HOA implies a certain standard.
Exactly. But what she didn't understand is that book was a personal attack on the author. And I've seen many reviews in my days where readers attack the author. They don't give a clear, concise opinion. And again, opinions are like something else. Everybody's got one. They would rather attack the author for whatever reason. Maybe it's because they don't have dreams and goals. Maybe they've not fulfilled their dreams and goals. Maybe they're frustrated. Maybe they're angry at the world, at themselves, and everything in it. But this particular person, instead of looking within and saying, you know, that sounds an awful lot like me, maybe I might need to change my way of thinking, my attitude about things.
Oh, heavens no.
She deflected, which gave me more fodder for the second book. And
Yes.
when she said some of us have relationships and some of us even get married, oh, red flags went up everywhere. So that tells me, honey, what are you doing on the side?
Uh-huh.
Did I say that out loud? Of course I did. Y'all know me.
Well, she's probably watching this show live just so she can come back and attack you again.
Bring
Because
it.
she'd rather watch your life and watch you fulfill your dreams and hate on you for doing what you said you're going to.
Absolutely.
Well,
Well, she was
what
so
is it that we
proud.
always say? Them that do, do. Them that can't,
Don't
teach or just sit back and complain.
criticize. And but she was so proud that I was going to write a book. What did she think I was going to do? Write a book that she was the most wonderful, popular, most knowledgeable person in this park?
Well, you do write fiction.
That is true. I do like that. I do indeed. Hmm. That's a thought. But because of those two books, now, ladies, here's another thing. Because of those two books, people that I don't even know have read the book in this park. They come up to me and say, Vaughn, I want to be in a book. And you are who? All right. Dr. Rock's Organized Chaos that has just joined us on Midnight Publishing.
Uh-huh.
He wants to be in a book as a drag queen.
For crying out loud.
I'm serious. I have his drag name. I got nothing. I just write stories. But people want to be in my books. They don't even mind being the villain. They don't even mind being killed off. They just want to be in the book.
Well, because that immortalizes them.
It does.
Somebody asked me one day about my book's visibility. You know, somebody trying to sell me something. And they were like, well, don't you want your books to sell more? And I said, honey, I'm 71. I have a cousin that lived to be 106. So that's my goal. If I can live as long as Faye, you know, be 106 and still writing. I don't want to be feeble because she got feeble toward her end. If I can be 106 and still be writing, great. But my goal, my ultimate goal is that long after my last descendant has faded and my name has faded from their memory, other people will pick up my books and either be inspired, educated, or entertained. I'm not writing for fame and fortune. I'm writing because I like to breathing. I like to breathing, yes.
You like
I
to
like to breathing.
How can we put that in a sentence?
No, I love life, and for me, writing is my life.
It's air that
I
we
love
breathe.
books. I love to hold them. I love to smell them. I love to touch them. I love to think about them. I was working on my sequel to Steep Steps last night, and my character uses a journal. It's a big part of her recovery. But she doesn't just write in a silly little journal you can pick up at the dollar store. She goes out and she buys basically grimoires. They're leather bound and etched, and they have a hasp where you lock it. It's metal, and every page in it is handmade and hand pressed. It's a keepsake for her. It's a very important part of her process. And I had the most fun researching that to find the right words to describe it. Because when I see an image, I can then, I have it in my head, but sometimes it doesn't come out the way I want it to. I can't just say she had big red leather book. That doesn't make as much sense. So I go online, I look around, I shop around, and I found the exact book that I thought she was using, and I'm like, oh, that's what I need to describe.
You just gave me the cover for that new book.
For Steeper Steps? Well, hold your horses, honey. I've got.
This is what I do, ladies and gentlemen.
I have lots more words to write, and you have lots more books ahead of me. So.
So
think we talked this morning, you have about 15 books in queue.
I have 25.
25. I knew there was a 5 in there somewhere.
There's 25 books in queue. I've picked up 3 new authors. One of them is Helen O'Toole. She's a children's writer. I haven't even looked at her books yet. Sherry Richardson has sent me a new book. Sherry's daughter Sarah has joined us. She sent me a new book. I am putting out 5 books that belong to A.L. Nightshade, 2 books that belong to Christina Whistler that are in the Raven series. Who have I left out?
See Paul?
Paul Dawson, who's way down at the end of my list because I'm not real happy with him right now. Let's see, who else? Who am I? Oh. Yeah. Can't remember her last name, but she sent me 5 books. Brand new
Is that
one.
the one? Is that the one from Canada?
Yes, that's our second international author.
Okay.
She's been
Awesome.
following us for a hot minute, and she said, Yvonne, you've inspired me. Here's my books. I said, okay.
Nice.
Okie dokie. But ladies and gentlemen, back to reviews. The thing about reviews is, remember when you were in school, maybe y'all didn't, but we did, we had to read a book. And we had to give a review on that book.
Oh, yes.
When I was in 7th grade, and again, this fed my true crime affliction, I had to read In Cold Blood by Truman
Ooh.
Capote in 7th grade. And y'all are going, what? Yes. Then I had to give a book review, and if you've never read that book, you need to read it if you are into that. I had to give a book review on which of the 2 perpetrators were the most guilty. Now, the teacher wanted my opinion, right? My opinion, not her opinion, but my opinion. I gave her my opinion because even at 12, 13 years old, I understood that the one who did nothing to stop the crime, in my eyes, classified as being more guilty of the crime because he had an opportunity on more than one occasion to stop the crime, and he didn't. He went along with it. She informed me that wasn't right. And I said, why not? You asked for my opinion. She said, rewrite the paper. Okay. So then I rewrote the paper and said the guy that did it, that killed the family, was the most guilty. Now, that's not right either. Lady,
Tell me what you want me to write and I'll write it.
you want to put your opinion. It's your opinion you're asking for, not mine. What she wanted me to say was they were both equally guilty, but they were not equally guilty in the eyes of the law. I was 12 years old. I knew the difference. Don't ask me how. But it was my opinion, my review, not hers. So when you read a book and somebody says, well, what did you think about the book? And you tell someone your honest thoughts about your opinions, your thoughts, your feelings about the book, and it doesn't jive with somebody else's, that's on them, honey.
I want to give you some examples of those. They call them pans. Sharp, witty, and brutal critiques where the critics tear apart books. And it's similar. I mean, they have their opinion. Who didn't love the Bridges of Madison County? A little too sappy for you, I know.
Yeah.
But most people loved the book, they loved the movie. But this critic called it a crock of leavings. Because it was overly cheesy and pretentious. There's another book called You Know You Want This. The reviewer slammed it, calling it a dull, needy book that relies on shock value. I bet she got so many book sales as a result of that. Just like when you and Cactus Jack would go to the movies to see what Siskel and Ebert didn't like. The Stranger in the Lifeboat, I don't know that story. But it was written by Mitch Albom, who was a pretty decent writer. He said the author's theological statements possessed all the holy insight of a sympathy card from your insurance agent.
Well, now now that could be a good review, depending on how well you and you are friends with your insurance agent.
Exactly.
Oh, we're so sorry this happened to you. How about a $25,000 check?
That would be nice.
Yeah. Talk about the one from Catcher in the Rye. That was hysterical.
Oh, let me find that one.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, you got to remember, Catcher in the Rye was written in a different generation, in a different century, during the Depression. Now, for those of you who are too young, who've never studied about the Depression, it was a time in history when there was no rain, there was a drought, farmers were losing their farms, there was no money, people were out of work, there was food voucher cards, gasoline was rationed. I mean, my mother grew up in that era. It was tough.
Mine do.
So, Catcher in the Rye talks about that. The author wrote it during that time. The language is different, the setting is different, the storyline is different. What's the reviewer say?
In my hand I hold $5. I will give it to anyone who can explain the plot of this book or why there is no plot and make me understand why people think it's so amazing. There was another one about another book. It was about Emma by Jane Austen. I hate it. So boring. I fell asleep at the first page. It's great if you're into that old 1800s kind of speech. Oh, here's one about Harry Potter. It's witchcraft.
Duh!
Did you know? I actually got an email book review from a third party. It was strange. A friend of mine ordered a copy of A Journey with Angels. And she wanted me to send one of my older copies so I could sign it to the intended recipient. So I wrote the inscription and I sent it to my friend. My friend then gave it as a gift to her friend, other friend. A couple days later, maybe a week or two, I don't know, my friend emails me. She goes, "Your book is sorcery." I'm like, "What?" This was the review, and I made a post out of it. It started out nice enough, and then it turned into sorcery and witchcraft because it talks about astrology and the moon.
How do you equate the two?
I do not understand, and I know Helen is of the same woo-woo mindset that I am, so I'm sure she's like rolling in her chair over there, because I talk about angels, and I talk about how to communicate with them, because it's something I've been able to do all of my life that I can remember. But this person thought it was sorcery and witchcraft because I mentioned astrology. One has nothing to do with the other.
You're going to laugh at this one. There's a historical novel I wrote called A Voice from the Grave. It takes place at Andersonville, the last Confederate prison camp at the end of the rail line during the War of Northern Aggression. And I researched that book for 4 years. The battles are real, the generals are real, the place is real. The story is based on one of 3 women that died at that camp as prisoners of war. She still remains an unknown. So this unlearned, tongue-in-cheek person said, "You don't know what you're talking about. Those battles never happened." What?
Are we erasing history now?
I went, "Excuse me. I got the books. I got the research. I don't do historical fiction without doing the research. Yeah, I didn't know what I was talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, the stuff that comes out of some people's mouth and through their fingers on a keyboard never ceases to amaze me. We could write a whole book about book reviews. Uh-oh, there go the wheels.
Oh, I hate this.
But
I mean, I've got 16 works in progress right now. I've got 75 ideas. Well, actually 77 now because we just talked about the guiding star.
yeah,
And now the book reviews. I mean, remember my brother's idea about the business cards? I could do that with book reviews.
you could.
I will.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, when Edgar Allan Poe, who is my favorite author, bar none. I've been reading Poe since I was a little girl. I'm talking 7, 8, 9 years old. I've been reading Poe. My favorite poem, of course, is The Raven. I read that poem. I know why he wrote that poem, and I know why he wrote Annabel Lee after that poem. He wrote The Raven because he was asking himself, how am I going to feel when my wife dies?
Yep.
He was already grieving. And then when she died, he wrote Annabel Lee. There were so many hate reviews about Poe's work during his lifetime. Chat message, tell him to hold that thought. He died penniless. Go ahead. Your chat message.
It was Helen again. I guess she's the only one in our chat right now. We were talking about these reviewers, and she just called them unregulated humans.
Hey, I like that.
Oh, Helen!
No time. But Poe died penniless because he was ahead of his time. If you've never read Murder in the Rue Morgue, or The Pit and the Pendulum, or The House of Usher, which was the first horror movie I ever went to see at 13 with Vincent Price, you're missing out. Because Murder in the Rue Morgue is about a murder in a morgue, or in a building. But there was no breaking and entering. There were no open windows. There were no open doors. There was nobody coming or going. Who did it and why did they do it? And I'm not going to tell you. You got to read it.
I know the answer. I know the answer. I want to share 4 reviews I think you'll enjoy. I know Andrea would love it. Who's our other newer vampire author? I forgot. She wrote Connie Stiegel.
Yes, The Vampire. She wrote The Vampire.
She with these reviews. This one's about Twilight. It's called When Twilight Burns by Colleen Gleason. The review says, but all the characters are so good at making biting remarks at each other, and I feel like I should just keep a cooler full of ice with me to hand out to them for all the burns they're continually getting.
What?
I haven't read Twilight. I don't keep up with that.
Well, they glisten. Vampires don't glisten. I'm sorry. Vampires do not glisten, ladies and gentlemen. They don't.
No.
They're dark. They're dead. They sleep in coffins. They have blood that runs from their mouth on a constant level. Sometimes their fingernails are longer than their hair. They probably have bad breath. No, vampires don't glisten. They're not.
Can you imagine the morning breath from a vampire just dined on somebody?
Okay.
Here's one. The book was called Bleeding Heart by Melissa Graves. And this book review started out in all caps.
Oh my word.
Finally, a vampire book in which the vampires don't waste blood by spilling it all over the place. No self-respecting vampire would waste blood when they bite someone. Yet, in so many books, movies, shows, the blood is spilling all over the place until the people are covered and their clothing is ruined and is dripping all over the floor. Are you kidding? There wouldn't even be any blood left to drink at that point. Oh,
That's true.
oh, we have another chapter.
Okay.
And it's from Linda Humphrey.
Nice. Hi, Linda.
Each person has their opinion. Each side has some merit. Otherwise, we would all agree, and there's no need for free will. Just my opinion. Oh, honey, that's perfect. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the good reviews, the bad reviews, and the goofy reviews, and the silly reviews. I see there. I'm trying to find some of the reviews that I wrote or that were written. Here's one about Silent Scream. Kind of a long one, by Jennifer Chase, the author of Thriller Compulsion. Silent Scream takes you from the beginning to the end of serial killer Gerard Schaefer's horrendous killing spree, and then through the myriad of complexities in the criminal justice system. I was literally glued to this book. The book is disturbing, but I still found that I couldn't put it down. But what's even more disturbing is that the serial killer was a police officer who used his badge and gun to terrorize, torture, and kill young women in Florida between 1966 and 1972, and I got the chills. Books that involve serial crime, either fiction or nonfiction, fascinate me. Yvonne Mason has expertly crafted this true crime story to unfold with a continued escalating pace, a real page-turner. She has captured the evil soul of Gerard Schaefer and has also given a voice to the many victims. The extensive research conducted for this book is absolutely top-notch. I highly recommend this book for anyone who enjoys true crime or crime fiction. I'm anxious to read more books by this author in the future. If I didn't know better, I'd say that Brandy wrote this, your daughter. But I've read Brandy's writing. It's not that. She doesn't
Now,
write that way.
Jennifer Chase is a real person. She is an author. She also lives in Texas and lost her husband a couple of years ago. She has a German Shepherd named Ranger who is training with the canine units for search and rescue and search and find. And she is an amazing human being. When she first got Ranger, she said, I don't know if I can keep him or not because there's something about him. I said, Jennifer, he picked you. There's a job that y'all have to do together. And what it is she now has him for search and rescue and search and find with the police departments.
And here's one that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words. Schaefer was pure evil. Great book. You know what blows my mind? Just like with the one Murder in the Village. Now, some people will write a negative review. Like here's one, it says not worth reading, tedious, repetitive, and boring. It can't be. But the ones that don't like your books write very long explanations of why they don't like it.
They certainly do.
This one is so funny. Because we were talking about why didn't you put it down? Why did you keep reading it? One of them calls it illiterate garbage. I came upon Silent Scream after reading an excellent book by Roy Hazelwood, who did your foreword,
He did.
which mentioned Gerard John Schaefer, along with Ted Bundy, giving third-person accounts of their crimes. Regardless of the 1 or 2 reviews mentioning the need for an editor, I'm ashamed to say I paid more than $20 for this garbage. Beginning with page 1 through page 426, there are enough typos, grammar, and punctuation errors to flunk a 3rd grader. even the author's own reviews, which probably comprise the majority of the 5-star ratings, are amateurish and speak for themselves. The Scream are no longer silent. They now have a voice, and with that voice comes Peach. Oh, okay, I see what they quoted a typo. It should be peace. Enough said. But you don't like the book, but yet you didn't stop reading it.
Well, and what they don't understand, the way that book is written, there is repetitiveness, and the reason for that repetitiveness is because of the way it is written through the criminal justice system, between the newspaper interviews, the transcripts of the trial, getting to trial, and the interviewing. Yes, it is repetitive. Also, ladies and gentlemen, there are excerpts from Schaefer's own book in that book, which are his confessions to those crimes. Now, if that book was that bad, according to this reviewer, a publisher in France would not have contacted me and paid me a hefty sum for the publishing rights of that book in French. Investigation Discovery would not have had me on their show 7 plus 2 in Europe, 1 in New Zealand, 1 in France. I rest my case.
I'm not going to read this whole review. It's just really, really long. But I'm going to read the last paragraph. I'm still reeling from what Ms. Mason has
Froze.
written. Did I freeze?
Now you're back.
I'm still reeling from what Ms. Mason has written, and she deserves every iota of praise she receives for writing this masterpiece. For the innocent girls and unnamed victims yet to be discovered, we thank you. I don't even know who wrote that.
Well, when the book came out, I got a phone call one day, and it was from one of the victim's nieces, and she asked me why I did what I did. And I told her, I says, because these girls have been forgotten. I said, my husband worked this crime, and it had an adverse effect on him as a law enforcement agent. He couldn't even go with me to look at their clothes that were in the evidence locker room after going through the first box, because it brought back too many memories, not good ones. I said, so I wrote the book. I was compelled to write the book because we always give the murderer excuses for why they do what they do. Oh, well, he slept with his mother, and he did. He was mistreated by his father. He had issues. I don't care if he had the entire subscription, ladies and gentlemen. There's no justification for what he did to these girls. They were forgotten, literally forgotten. Their families never forgot. Their friends never forgot. So the niece called me, and she said, I have my father on the phone, who was one of the victim's brother. Will you talk to him? I said, absolutely. I'm going to tell you what, if that book did nothing else but help this man heal, then my job is done. He got on the phone, and he says, my name is John, and I want to thank you because you brought my sister to life again. You have given her a voice. He said, I want to thank you. And he was in tears. I said, well, you have to thank my husband because he is the one that brought the book to my attention. He's the one that told me about these girls. He is the reason I wrote the book. That and the fact that the girls just wouldn't shut up in my head. Literally, they were in my head. We want to be heard. We want to be heard. So I gave the phone to my husband, and they both were in tears. That put an exclamation point on the fact that Gerard Schaefer was convicted on circumstantial evidence, was murdered in prison in 1996. But it closed that chapter so that both my husband and John could start healing. If that book did nothing else but help those two men heal from those heinous crimes, and ladies and gentlemen, they were not pretty. Yeah. Then that was the purpose of the book. And Roy Hazel.
Sometimes we don't know why we write what we write. We're compelled. And Linda Humphreys here, she wrote a book of absolutely adorable little poems. Wrote an entire story, and in between the story, there were poems, and it was about something she'd never heard of. Powered. Oh, Linda, help me.
Paragliders.
Powered paragliders, and she called it the cornfield flyers of East Tennessee, because that's where she first became familiar with this group of people that flew in these paragliders. What she did is she took her own imagination and she infused it with a family, put the names of children that she knew, and she also included a page in there with her own grandchildren in it. But she told the story from the children's perspective and how they might imagine different things having to do with powered paraglider. And that's a hard thing to say 3 times slow, much less fast. But it was, I'll get to you, and just Linda's got another little comment about Gerard Schaefer. But she wrote that book about this, and she thought she was done writing, but she's got more writing in her. I gotta get to figuring out how she's gonna get that done. Her message is, excuses are not reasons. Mental health professionals work hard to find the reasons behind their vicious acts. That's true.
But with serial killers, there are no reasons. Serial killers have no remorse, no sense of guilt. They deflect. Everything is everybody else's fault. They are narcissistic sociopaths. You can never, ever, and I don't care what anybody tells you, you can never, ever understand the mind of a serial killer, because each serial killer has a different mindset. They have a different target. They don't just go out and maliciously start taking out people. They know their target. They will wait for that target. So you cannot figure them out. You cannot change them. Their mental illness is not reversible. They have no soul.
And, in a way, I get that, because that's how I feel about my writing. I make no excuses for being a writer. I cannot always give you a reason for specific books. I can tell you what inspired each of my books. In fact, I have a social media campaign that's going on right now that talks about each of my 26 books and what was the seed that started it. Although I'm not sure what I'm going to do with Unregulated Humans, or the book review book, or My Guiding Star. 3 books that came out of today's show, and I got to add them to my list.
And this is what we do, ladies and gentlemen. We
feed Mary stuff.
Well, after our show with Roy and Anita, Roy sent me a new book.
Did he now?
Yes, he did. So that's one of the books in my queue.
Another Wilderness of Ren?
No, I can't remember what it is. I hadn't even looked at it. I just put it in the queue, and I'll get there. But
I wanted to give you one more Midnight Publishing book review. It's about Sherry Ann Richardson's 101 Organic Gardening Tips.
Oh, good.
It's a very short one, which is this. I want to emphasize to our viewers and listeners and readers and writers, a book review doesn't have to be 3 or 4 paragraphs long. It doesn't have to be extremely well written. It doesn't have to be edited and formatted. It just needs to be sincere. This one said, it's a book with 101 gardening tips, maybe more. Okay? And then it says, I've highlighted a few select tips that will be useful for me.
Voila.
I have another message from Linda. That's what I mean about their reason. They have targets. They have, you know, we joke about men and women or boys and girls having a type. These serial killers do. They have types. They have specific people that they target, and they have to fit into a certain criteria. And even if you talk with the profilers, they'll, if somebody that's different, you know, they might have two serial killers that are working at the same time, and they might even be, say, burying their victims in the same location. But they can look at what's going on and say, wait, I don't think this is serial killer A's victim. It doesn't fit the profile.
And Roy Hazelwood, ladies and gentlemen, is the FBI profiler that wrote the foreword to my book. He is the one, along with a group of other FBI agents, that started the serial killer profile program based on Schaefer. And let me tell you, in that time period, Bundy, Schaefer, even the ones in Gainesville, law enforcement did not talk to each other. That's how Schaefer was able to be a Martin County deputy. He forged a letter from Milton Manor's police department chief that he was a wonderful, wonderful cop, he highly recommended, yada, 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 yada. And the sheriff of Martin County took that as gospel. They didn't talk to each other. So Schaefer was killing all over Florida, and nobody put the lines together. We've come a long way since then. And when I was getting my degree in criminal justice, of course, my love was studying serial killers and psychology, because I wanted to understand the human mind. Anybody at any given time can be living with a serial killer and not know it.
It has happened.
Schaefer was married.
Yeah.
His wife had
There are people, I mean, you hear it all the time. Whether it's somebody who's using drugs or somebody who's a murderer. He was the nicest guy. I had no idea he was doing this. Because they live double lives.
and they do it well.
It's got to be exhausting. I have a hard enough time living my one life. Jeez.
So again, when you write reviews, ladies and gentlemen, be open-minded. My mother, a very wise woman, was a avid reader like I am, like Mary is. And when I was in college, in my English class, I had to write another book review. Only this book was written in the 1920s. And like the person who said, The Catcher in the Rye, I don't understand the plot, da-da-da-da. Well, that's where my mindset was when I started reading this book. I called my mother, I said, Mother, I'm not going to make an A on this test. And I was on the dean's list and the president. She said, why? I said, Mother, it makes no sense. My mother very quietly said, Yvonne, read with an open mind. I won't do what? Read with an open mind. Do not go into a book with preconceived ideas of whether or not you're going to love or hate the book by the first chapter or even the first sentence. Because in every book you read, if you read with an open mind, you learn something, whether you want to or not. Okay, so I went back, I started over, I put myself in the 1920s. In the 1920s, women were basically considered useless, baby makers, slaves, silent partners in a marriage that sometimes was not filled with love, acceptors of husbands having affairs all over God's little green acre. And you just went on with life and lived it because you could not live outside of a marriage because you couldn't go out and get a job. You could, but it would be of ill repute. This woman was married to this man. They were well off. They had a summer home. They had a winter home.
I have one of those.
Summer home and a winter home. And
Yeah, it's a year-round home.
and she had had an affair. Her husband had had many. She felt guilty because she had had this affair while married. She didn't know what to do about it because she was going to be a disgrace to her husband when the world found out. But yet her husband could run around all over town. It didn't matter. Kudos to him. So what she wound up doing is she wound up committing suicide. When I thought about the time, the place, the language, the culture, how women were treated in general, it all made sense. I got an A+ on that paper. So I don't care what book you read it with an open mind.
Look at the Scarlet Letter.
Yes,
That was written even earlier than the 1920s.
yes.
One of the first things I do when I open a book is I check when it was published, because that gives me a sense of what was going on in the author's world, and that helps me see things as they may be. But then I also like to know, is this a historical piece? Because that helps me also take it out of my contemporary setting.
So before you write a nasty review, and as I like to say, better to be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt, or in this case, put fingers to keyboards and remove all doubt. Learn to read books with an open mind. Learn to understand the setting, the people, the perception of the author, because every piece of artwork, whether it's a painting, music, movie, book, sculpture, is all about perception. You cannot possibly know what was in that author's mind when they wrote that book. Because if you do know what was in that author's mind when they wrote that book, we got to talk.
Yeah, what are the lottery numbers?
Yeah, exactly. And you have to understand that in order to enjoy something that you pick up and read, you've got to take away everything that's in your head. This is a new author. I wonder if I like this book. It looks good. Never mind. Don't do that. Many books have been put aside because the reader had a perception that was too narrow.
I would highly encourage anybody who wants to start writing book reviews, by all means, do so. Because especially if you are already an author, you reviewing other authors' books gets your name out there.
Yep.
And it creates name recognition. If there's something, you're reading a book and you're thinking, they should have gotten an editor. You never know, maybe they did. Maybe they want the book to have some mistakes in it because that's the way the character speaks. Every book does not need to be an award-winning Pulitzer Prize masterpiece in the world of literature to teach you something, to inspire something, or to educate you about something. But you have to stop judging before you finish. Read the whole book. Now, if it's a book that you just, I mean, I've had some books I put down in disgust and I just want to stomp on them. I don't. My son actually has burned books that were just so terribly written, or the plot was so heinous, and he'll just take it outside and burn it. But you don't have to be that dramatic. You can burn it with a review. Every review.
If you don't understand Russian history, do
Oh.
not read War and Peace and do not read Dr. Zhivago. I read Chat Message, Tell them to hold on. I read both of those when I was 12 and 13 years old.
Yep.
And they're like this thick.
They're gigantic books, especially to a youngster.
And they're difficult to get through. But I learned so much. What was the chat message?
Linda said maybe they should call it reader opinions
That's a
instead
good
of
one.
book reviews.
Reader opinions.
But just like when let's just say we order something from Amazon. I didn't from Amazon, but got a little hippo that makes this noise, and I got some gum. Neither one came from Amazon, but everybody wants to know, did I do good? Everybody wants their little pat on the back. Oh, I got another person here. I'll get back to you in a minute. TCB 62912. You don't know who you are. Just says,
Okay.
hello, ladies. Hope
Well-
all is well today. But if somebody wanted me to tell them, am I doing good? Am I meeting your expectations? Leave a review. Every now and then I'll go back on Amazon and I'll go leave a review for things that I've written. In fact, I'm planning to make an order today. I need new Sharpies, I need new ink pens. I needed a few other. I got my list right here. Some things that I need that I can I can't get them elsewhere, but I'm going to get them from Amazon because it's just easier for me.
Well, I don't have to leave my house, so there's that.
But I'll go back afterwards and I will leave a review and tell Amazon, and that then goes over to the person that is selling that item, if it's not Amazon proper, how well they're doing. That's how we as authors learn to be better. That's how we learn. Everybody loves my writing. I had the honor of starting a literary or a critique group many years ago. We stayed active for 15 years, even when we weren't all in the same town or county or state. We used Zoom and we got back together. So anyway, at some point we just kind of fizzled out, but we still critique each other's work through email. And there were times that I would send them something and they would just go, oh, just Mary. But then there were times they weren't big.
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but I understand that more than anybody knows.
They weren't big fans of my angel books, but they absolutely loved From the Balcony. They're not big memoir fans. They loved my dark humor. They loved my dark fiction. So that put me in this mindset. I want to write these angel books. I want to write my little woo-woo stuff. I want to tell people that Metatron gives me messages. I want them to know about Jonathan and Michael and Harriet and Alexander and angels with even weirder names. But I also want to share with them my thoughts about killing, or letting my sister rot in prison, or uh, my cat who can speak English.
Southern,
What? You know,
Southern English.
oh, very Southern. Those books, every book that I've written, I think, has gotten reviews, and they've all gotten kudos, and they're selling, and great, good, wonderful. I'm not rolling in the money, and I don't care. I have to write what I want to write, and
What we preach here, ladies and gentlemen, and it is like a gospel with us, is that not every book is for everyone, but there is a book for everyone. Let me reiterate that. Not every book is for everyone, but there is a book for everyone. So if Mary wants to write about angels and she wants to write dark humor, there's nothing that says she can't. We don't put our authors in a box. I write many different genres because the voices in my head won't shut up. Andrea Dean Van Scoyoc, she writes everything from goth to spiritual inspiration to vampires to gardening. Sherry Ann Richardson writes fantasy fiction, well, not fantasy fiction. She writes about the mob up in Illinois, and she writes about gardening and homesteading. When we put our authors in a box, we cheat two things. We cheat our authors of ever growing beyond that which they think they can do, and we cheat readers that we never reach.
because we can't reach everybody with every book, but why should we, like, oh my gosh, little Kara Benson,
Yes.
they told her, when I say they, I'm talking about agents that she was querying. Her book was character driven. They didn't work with character driven books. I just adore character driven books. That's just so much. It lets you into the mind of the, you feel the story. But they told her that her book was only good for people in a very narrow demographic. It appeals to people of all ages. Ages. I have a message here.
Okay, chat message.
From Linda. When I said just Mary, they did. They would say, "Oh, it's just Mary." She said, "I understand. Love her. She's my GSS. That stands for Grand Mary Starshine. My grandson calls me Grand Mary." And Linda started calling me Starshine umpteen years ago. Her angel is Andrew. He's always with her. And she's loaned Andrew to me several times when I was in need. I'll only have 50 million angels around me, but I needed Andrew too. I was with somebody one day, a psychic, and she just kind of did like this. And her mouth dropped open, and she's just like, wow, you have hundreds of angels around you. I said, only hundreds?
Not anymore. So, educate yourself through books and learn that when you are giving a reader's opinion, that is all it is. It is a reader's opinion. What you might not like about a particular book, somebody else might just fall right into it because that's their stick.
Silent Scream, Murder in the Village are absolute proof of that. Even My Angel book, it got a negative review, and I still haven't done anything with it. I need to turn him on his
Oh.
ear.
Yeah, flipping.
Um, Linda Humphrey has another message, but she was the one who told me if my book about the cornfield flyers can make people feel half as good as this book, she was holding My Angel book. She said, if I can make other people feel half as good as this book makes me feel, then I'll be happy. Most people love My Angel books, but this one person said, you should be ashamed of yourself. You're indoctrinating children to, what was it? He didn't say, superstitious nonsense or something like that. And come to find out he's an atheist or a non-theist or whatever.
Bless you.
Linda's message was, whenever I, and she put in quotes, see in detail, I know it's got to happen. And I want to say, Helen may have said something like that. Might have been in a conversation, just me and her on the phone. But yeah, when you see things before they happen, I get this strong sense of deja vu.
All the time.
There's a message happening. Pay attention.
I know that a couple of nights ago, Brandy sent you the same photo she sent me.
Yes.
Yeah, ladies and
One of
gentlemen.
her co-workers was reading Sally's Heart,
Yes.
and she
At
said,
work.
do not post this. Do not post this.
But Sally's Heart is a children's book.
Yeah, but it was a
But
grown up.
it's about organ donation. But she was she also picked up from the balcony.
She told me. Brandy
So-
told me.
Again, that's two opposite ends of Mary's spectrum.
Yes.
From the balcony are short stories that Mary thought of after her mother died and she was going through the anger phase of grief. And there were so many people that she was not happy with. And the only way to get rid of that anger was to kill them off in a book.
Yeah.
Sally's Heart is about your cousin who needed a heart transplant. And instead of writing it as an adult book, Mary wrote it as a children's book so children would understand what happens when someone donates a part of their self to someone else, that it's a gift. So you have two
The
opposite
same
ends of
thing
the
happened
spectrum.
with grandma's heart attacked her. I had so many people back in January, February, I don't remember when I sent it to you, but so many people right after my heart attack were saying, you need to write a book, because they'd ask me, how did you know you were having a heart attack? I didn't experience the pain and the symptoms that I would have expected if my heart was failing. I mean, literally, the pressure that I felt, it was just a tiny amount of, that ain't right. But the other symptoms all added up. You know, it was like baking a cake. You can open up a raw egg and eat it, but it's not going to taste like a chocolate cake. You can eat some flour, and it's not going to taste like a chocolate cake. But you put them all together, and you've got a chocolate cake. Well, that's what happened with me. Put all my symptoms together, and I had heart failure. So many, many people were saying, you need to write a book about this. You need to write a book. And I started thinking about the book from an adult perspective. I think it was Judy Blume who said, if the subject matter is too difficult to write about, write it for children. And that's what I did.
Do we have another chat message?
I have another chat message. She can tell when we're too in sync now. Linda said, I have had adults tell me how much they loved cornfield flyers. In fact, one of Linda's very first reviews came from two people who worked on getting the book printed, because Linda, like me, Linda followed my advice, and she did everything the first time the hard way. She's she published the book by having it printed by a third-party printer. Now it's out there on Amazon, and anybody can find it anywhere in the world, practically. But two people from the printer's house or printer shop emailed us and raved about this book. They said they weren't children. It's a very fun book, but it teaches you about powered paragliding. See, I said it 3 times right, very slowly with a lot of other words in between. Oh.
So,
But yeah, a children's book doesn't have to be for children. Carol Bellavance, one of our spiritual authors, took 5 or 6 of my children's books when they first came out to their mother's home in an assisted living facility or memory care facility.
Memory Care Center.
And she said that the people love the books because they're bright and vivid and very colorful. And so she found out the reason for that is color is one of the last things that we forget. We remember color. We might not remember the name of the color, but remember how the yellow makes us remember the sun, or the blue makes us remember somebody's eyes. So the colors are important. I wanted to say something, just having to think about it. We were talking about the different genres of my writing and how we don't, at Midnight Publishing, we don't put anybody in a box. We don't say you have to write only science fiction, or you only have to write spiritual. I mean, like Carol. Right now she's only writing spiritual and meditation type books. But the minute she wants to write fantasy or something else, she can. There's nothing to stop her. So I do write a lot of children's books. Well, I think it's a half and half. I think I've got 10 or 11 children's books and about that many-ish of adult books. And there are some that are kind of like middle readers, so they cross the gap. But I have one book for children about mermaids called If I Could Be a Mermaid, that is just about imagination and exploring the world through mythology, but also reminding children why it's just wonderful to be a child. And then I have a book called I Used to Be a Mermaid, and it is for adults. It's for helping you reconnect with the playful side. It's helping you realize there's nothing wrong with you. Helping people reconnect with their own authentic self without feeling ashamed of being different.
And we lose that, ladies and gentlemen, as we get older, because we have friends, family, and those who think they mean well saying, it's time to grow up. When are you going to grow up? You're too old for that. What were you thinking? We are only as old as our mind tells us to be. Now, my mind thinks I'm 20, but my body says you might want to sit down and rethink that.
Yeah.
But that being said, another chat message, okay?
Christina Whistler joined us.
Hi, Christina. She's going to be on our show tomorrow at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
She said, I am late. I will watch the replay.
We are glad she is here. Christina lives in California, so when we have her on the show, we have to bring her on at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, because our 10:30 show is like 7:30 in California, and that's just too early for some people. But while she's on chat, she has her Raven series that is out. The 4th book is out, called The Raven's Crown. It came out after The Raven's Flight, and there's 2 more books that my mind just went blank. But the thing is, this Raven series, Christina is an excellent storyteller. I am working on the fifth book in the series. Fifth or sixth book in the series. I can't remember. Fifth book. There's 6 books. But she is an amazing storyteller. It's fantasy, it's science fiction, it's magic. It takes the reader into places that I've never been before with a book. And I'm going to tell you what, she's such an amazing storyteller that when I was formatting the book and editing the book, I wanted to jump in the book and go after Thaddeus myself. Just saying. And that's all I'm going to read the book.
I think anybody who reads that wants to give Thaddeus a good throttling.
Yeah, yeah. Talking about a protagonist, yeah. Thaddeus, shame on Thaddeus. And he only gets worse. He's got to come to an undo end. I mean, yeah. So look up Christina Whistler. Now, I will tell you that Amazon, in their infinite stupidity of always messing with their catalogs, if you go under the Raven's Cry and the Raven's Flight and try to click on the paper book of the Raven's Cry, it will flip you over to the Raven's Flight because they have the catalog. The ASIN numbers are screwed up. I'm still fighting with Amazon. There is a way to get to it, and I will post that way on the Midnight Publishing page. I've also given Christina that link. You can get to it, but you have to go in through a back door. But you can get The Raven's Cry and hardback, Kindle, and Audible. All of our books that I can put on Audible, I do. The children's books, unless they're in chapters, don't go up on Audible. But let me tell you about Kindle and Audible. If you have a child or an adult that has trouble reading the written word, you go on and you buy the Kindle book. All right, let's take Lizard Patrol by Mary Brotherton. Lizard Patrol is on
That's
Kindle.
me!
It is also on Audible. So you add the Audible as an add-on, and they can follow the words while listening to the book. It is a great learning tool. And we do that with every book that we can. And if our children's books are in chapters, they go up on Audible, but they have to be in chapters. Chat message.
Chat message from Linda. Maya Angelou said, people will long forget what you say and what you do, but will never forget how you make them feel.
Exactly.
How does the book make them feel? That is a perfect comment for our class today on book reviews.
Yes.
You know, really and truly, you can skip over the books that might need an extra edit, or the ones that have different grammar than you're accustomed to. You can not worry about the books that were from the Great Depression or written in the 1800s, because that's not our era. But you read the book for the sake of the book. You read it for the story, the feeling, and you think, okay, I'm going to write a review. How does this book make me feel? And that's why Linda said if she could get Cornfield Flyers to make people feel half as good as My Angel book did, she'd be happy. To me, that was the best verbal review. And folks, I want to tell you, those of you who are authors and you're wondering, how do I get a book review? How do I get people to do my book reviews? Listen, watch. People will say things, or they will, I mean, I get a lot of book reviews on social media where people will see, my mother-in-law will not write a book review, probably. But she's already written one and didn't even know it. Because I posted things about Steep Steps. And I'm always posting things about all of my books. So I posted a Steep Steps, and it was in my stories. And my mother-in-law had bought a copy from Amazon. And when she saw my story, she just click the like button, because she does that for everything I post, whether she likes it or not. She says that's not her only way of letting me know that she's seeing what I'm doing. And so she liked it, and then she left a comment, which is very unusual for her. And she said, at first when I started reading this book, I didn't like it, because it was just a bunch of people talking. But then when I got into it, I don't like Jim. And I'm like, book review! And that's what I do a lot. You might see where I have book review after book review after book review. People don't know they're writing a review for you through social media or be on the telephone. Or Linda and I were at Village Inn in Titusville when she lived in Tennessee and had come to Florida for a visit. And I showed her my very first copy. I hadn't even gotten my printed copies of my Angel book. This was before Yvonne had started Midnight Publishing, and I hadn't transferred it over because I couldn't, she hadn't started it yet. But Linda was holding a copy of the book, and she did like this and said what she said. I've turned that into a post as a book review. So pay attention to what your family and your friends and even strangers might be saying. Like that guy who said that I should be ashamed of myself for posting or for promoting superstitious malarkey or whatever it was.
He should be
I am
ashamed
not
of
ashamed.
himself for not understanding people.
Well, I made a promise to myself years ago that I would never do or write anything that my mother or my grandson would be ashamed of. So I don't.
There you go. Roy Owenby, one of our authors, Plot Silent Screen. I don't know if you saw what he said or not. If not, I'm gonna send it to you and let you do what you do with it.
Okay.
And he's not even in law enforcement, ladies and gentlemen.
Send it to me for sure. 'Cause
But
I remember him talking about it, but I don't remember it verbatim.
Yeah, but he got it, so I'll send it to you. And it's under your post of the thing that you did.
The one with the French translation?
Yeah, it's under that post.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the book is so bad, folks, that it's been translated into French. It's been, what is the word when they turn it into a movie?
it's a documented. It's on documentaries.
It's on several documentaries in several countries. Yvonne is constantly being cited as an expert in serial killers, and she was just recently approached about doing 3 more interviews.
One more interview. I was in a movie as a cameo. Had to do with a killer. And there was something else. But the
You're
thing,
on a podcast.
that's right. I was on a podcast for the same thing. So this is to our authors. When you get a review and you feel like the rug has been pulled out from under you, and believe me, ladies and gentlemen, when I first started many, many years ago, I took things very personal because my books are personal, especially my true crime. They're very personal to me. Don't take it personal. Understand that that person's opinion, their whatever, their problem, their insecurities, their lack of self-respect, their lack of living their dreams is not a you problem. It's a them problem. And because that person does not have the wherewithal to read with an open mind, to think outside of their own narrow-mindedness, to broaden their horizons. I mean, how many of them have read War and Peace? I would venture to say none of them. Who only live in this dimension. That's not a you problem. It's a them problem.
Yes.
Charles Dickens is one of the most prominent authors of the last 3 centuries. his books have been made into movies. Please, sir, may I have some more? You
Oh,
have to
please.
understand that time period. The workhouses. Orphans went into workhouses. They went into orphanages. Women and children were not treated well. And it was in Europe. It was in England. You have to understand that people who refuse to allow their minds to expand is not a you problem. When they write personal attacks, nasty reviews, say things that you wonder what were they thinking, it's a them problem. And it's a them problem because they are living a frustrated life that they don't even know is frustrated. So you take that review and you flip it. And you use it as a positive reaction to a negative action. And trust me when I say they won't do it again, because the people that were nasty, literally, I was attacked about Murder in the Village. Literally, personally. When I flipped that on its head, they shut up. Because if they tried again, I was going to flip it again. When I got the nasty reviews of Silent Scream, I flipped them on that book, and I really wrote the guy back and said, well, maybe this book wasn't for you. Maybe you don't understand criminal justice and serial killers and victims. What were you wanting? A puff piece? Go read the newspaper. He shut up. I see Mary's wheels turning.
Well, you made me think about the reviews that I had done some research on,
Yeah,
and we briefly touched on Mitch Albom.
yeah.
You know, he's a good writer. He wrote, what else did he write? He wrote a book called Twice, which most people don't like. Now I have to look him up. What did he write? Who was he? Somebody help me. Linda, you know, who's Mitch Albom?
There were people that didn't like, while she's looking that up, there were people that didn't like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, I loved it.
I've got the series. I want another one.
And we talked about Johnny Depp also with Dark Shadows.
Yes. That was one of the funniest movies I've ever watched in my life. Even Jack laughed, and Jack doesn't laugh at stuff like that.
Okay, here's what he wrote. Tuesdays with Maury, The 5 People You Meet in Heaven, The Little Liar, The Timekeeper, Have a Little Faith, The Next Person You Meet in Heaven. Things like that. He's a spiritual, everybody's guy kind of thing. And I like his writing style, personally. Somebody went through great lengths to write a lot of negative things about it. But I just broke out one little piece. Now, listen to this part. It's astonishing that a man who's sold tens of millions of copies, an author who presumably has access to the finest editors in the business, can continue to produce lines that feel so synthetic and recycled.
What?
He didn't like it because this book called Twice is about a man with the ability to travel back to any point in life and make a different choice. Wouldn't we love to do that? Oh my God.
I'm not sure that I wouldn't make the same stupid mistakes that I made the first time.
Oh, the stupid mistakes are the fun mistakes.
Because I'm stubborn and don't learn easily.
Yeah. I always say God needs a 2x4 to get my attention. And he's been using one lately. Christina just said Johnny is a great actor. He made Captain Jack Sparrow.
Yes, he did. He is Captain Jack Sparrow.
He made Edward Scissorhands.
Yes,
Like,
he
oh my God, I had such a crush on Edward Scissorhands. Okay, this author said, a few hours after starting the book, I knew exactly which choice I would make differently. But alas, here we are, This is the kind of novel that a guard in the locked room must force you to keep reading. For all his godlike ability to relive time, Alfie enjoys an adolescent. Blah, 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 blah. And then he talks about how the man has sold tens of millions of copies,
He knows
and
this
how the
house.
book is just not good.
He knows
Alfie's
this.
memory of taking a bullet during a Mexican bank robbery feels less vibrant than my memory of dinner at the Olive Garden. I think whoever wrote this, Ron Charles, that's who it was, in the Washington Post.
Well, there you have it.
I think that says everything I need to know.
Okay, let's talk about that for a minute, ladies and gentlemen. There were some reviews, whether it's movies, TVs, music, art, books, that you take with a grain of salt. Because just like this guy from the Washington Post, he is paid to be controversial.
Yep.
Just like the two movie critics, they're paid to be controversial. They wouldn't say something was good if their life depended on it, because controversy means readership, viewership, ratings. That's why Mary and I love bad reviews.
Bad reviews just give us an opportunity to turn it into a good review.
Chat message.
Linda said, want to see God smile? Tell him your plans.
Exactly. Because God will change them every single time.
That's the equivalent of God saying, here, hold my beer.
And watch this. So as we wind up this workshop, and I want to thank, who all have we got in the chat room? Helen and Christina and Linda.
Linda?
And
And
somebody
then there's somebody else that came on earlier, said, hello ladies. And I asked who's the person behind TCB 62912. And I don't know who that is.
Well, we want to thank them all for joining us in our chat room today. And I think the way they joined us is I put the link up on the Midnight Publishing page, and they were able to join that. For some reason, it won't join on Off the Chain. So I'm going to put tomorrow's show up like that too. And join us tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern Time for Christina, because we're going to bring her back on the show and talk about the Raven Saga. And my Thaddeus is still amongst the living. Ruin is going to get him. Oh, she's going to get him. And on the, let me get my trusty book out. The Wednesday.
But while you do that, I just want to say that Helen said, still here.
Thank you, Helen. On the 19th, because this is the month of family, we're family by choice and we're family by blood. On the 19th, we are going to have Linda Ryan and her daughter, Kara Benson, on the show. And both of them are my cousins.
That's pretty cool.
Isn't that cool? Where else can you go and do that? On the,
I tried so hard to get my brother to join us when
he
I
just
had
didn't.
Aaron on.
He just.
He'll be okay.
Eventually, we will win him over. You know that, right?
Oh, yeah.
On the 26th, we are going to have Andrea Dean Van Scoik, unless she decides she wants to have another wreck.
No, that's not allowed.
And Tiffany, who has a podcast, and we're going to talk about the goth community, the goth spiritual community, and Andrea's books that are spiritual inspiration for the goth community and whatever else happens, because that's how we roll. We never know.
Who besides Andrea?
Tiffany, I will get you her information. She owns she runs a podcast on YouTube. I will send you her information too.
Okay. Got two more messages.
Yeah.
Helen said, you're welcome. Enjoyed it very much. Linda said, enjoyed. I hope you you did. I hope you learned some things. And I know it's a little difficult in the format that we use to, it's not like we're at a chalkboard with homework and handouts and things like that. We call it a class, but pretty much everything we do is a class. We're always teaching and learning together. And apparently I'm supposed to be writing 3 new books. Unless somebody wants to give me a seed for another one real quick. But Yvonne will go back and create her little magic clips. So there will be little snippets of the show that are a little easier to digest than the whole 2-hour show. But I really hope you all, if you take away just one thing, take away this. Book reviews don't cost you a penny. You should never pay anyone for a book review.
No.
And if somebody offers you to get you book reviewers, say thanks but no thanks. Leave a book review and it makes somebody's day. But if you don't know how to leave a book review, just remember the name of the book, the name of the author, how did that book make you feel? That's all. That's all you need to know. Did it make you laugh? Did it make you cry? Did it make you mad? You don't need to go into a lot of nitty-gritty details of, well, I didn't like it because, the man sold tens of millions of books and apparently he doesn't know how to put a sentence together. Who
Sounds like
does
jealousy
that?
to me. Sounds like jealousy.
Absolutely. 9 chances out of 10, he reached out to this author and asked the author for help or advice. And he either got rebuffed or got told, mind your own business, I'm busy writing. Which is what I tell people all the time. I'm too old, my heart's doing better. My doctor said it's beating strongly. But I still have issues and I dare not, I don't want to spend any minute of my life not doing the things that bring me joy. So I just decided to change my signature and my email. So when people email me, they'll find out I just basically told them to buzz off.
And when you authors get emails saying, oh, we've been watching you, we would like to put you on our blog, we would like to do this, we would like to do that, we are so excited, we've seen you going places. Let me tell you what, the first question you always ask, and then what is the cost? And when they say, oh, there's no cost, and then you set everything up, but we do ask for a donation of X amount of dollars. That happened to one of my new authors. I said, tell him to go pound sand.
That's a cost.
Because I also sent those people a nasty little email and said that was never, ever, ever, ever stated in any of the emails back and forth. You just did a bait and switch.
Yep, I get those all the time, and it drives me nuts because it's so uncool. It's just not the way. I mean, okay, I go to authors' events, well, not as often as I used to, but I used to go pretty frequently. Right off the bat, if you look up, or if somebody solicits you, somebody says, I want you to come to my book signing. I want you to come to this big author event. They're going to say, we'll give you a table, or you have to bring your own table, bring your own chairs. We'll give you an 8x10 space. It's going to cost you X amount of dollars up front. They don't hide that in 7 or 8 emails. It's always up front. You know right away, and you can just say, this is not for me, or tell me more. If Yvonne and I want to invite you to be on our show, which everybody who's here is always invited, always. Right now we have people through the end of August, and I think we have a few in September. October, we're devoting to our authors who write about domestic violence. And we when we do reach out to our authors, or as we did with the authors who are not with whoever we are.
Midnight Publishing, ladies and gentlemen. Midnight Publishing. Senior moment there.
Woo, boy. That's what happens when you give up caffeine, folks. Your words just don't come to you anymore.
Get
I
back.
haven't had a decent cup of coffee or tea, other than herbal tea, a little bit of green tea, since December. And my mind is rebelling. But we'll send an email, like I did my brother twice, and he turned us down twice. Hey, we would love to have you come on our show. It's always on Wednesdays at 10:30. There's no cost to you. You want to come? Would you pick a date? You know, we'll give them a couple of options. There's never any charge. And that's how it's supposed to be if you're truly trying to support somebody. But if you're just trying to make a buck, you're going to string them along with lovely words and fancy sounding ideas.
And fancy footwork.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden when you commit and you're all excited and you're ready to sign on, you know, I'll take this date, I'll be there on that day. Oh, that's going to cost you a donation. A donation? Yeah, only $19.95. Or I got one the other day. All of our authors donate $25. I love the ones that say, I run a book club that has 25,000 members. It's all done virtually. But we want you to donate money for snacks. Well, how are you going to get my, $25 to 25,000 people? That's less than a penny a piece. How are you going to get my donation to all of the people that are supposed to love my book? I don't want to say a Sunday school word, but it's at the tip of my tongue, and it wants to come out, and it's not pretty. It's malarkey, as they say in German.
So, to all of our authors out there, and anybody else that is an indie author out there, don't fall for it. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. There's always a bait and switch. If they do not tell you up front, this is the cost, then understand it's either a scam or a bait and switch.
You know, another thing, and I've told you this, Yvonne, that I've been getting a lot of since I published my first 25 books with Midnight Publishing in 12 months. Hit month 13, there's another book. I'm slowing down because I'm working on some more deep subjects now. And as long as Danny and Gloria are having their little tete-a-tete, we'll keep going. But if you don't know who Gloria is, I'm sorry, go read Steep Steps. You'll figure her out. Danny's brand new. But I'm getting queries from bona fide, literal, I mean, these are real people with corporate addresses, not people like me with a Gmail address. From companies that I have queried in the past, agents that I've reached out to that either didn't give me the time of day or just immediately turned me down. And, whoa, Christina Whistler. Sorry, I got zapped here. She said, I fell for one and it cost me $10,000.
Whoa.
Christina, I am so sorry. That's atrocious, and that should never happen. But there are people, my father used to call them shysters. There's crooks and criminals and con men and women. But now that I've got a little credibility, these people are coming out of the woodwork. Some of them have a corporate email address, and they're saying, oh, I'm with Putnam and Sons. I'm with Simon and Schuster. I'm with an imprint of Random House. I'm a and sometimes I feel a little snarky and I respond. If they come into my regular address, I usually respond. If they go into my spam box, I don't feel a need to, because somebody else has already reported them. But when I respond, they back off real fast. Because I'll say, you know, a year ago, I only had self-published books. Now I've aligned with Midnight Publishing, and I've written 26 books. 2 of my books are in Amazon's top 100. Other books are creeping up that ladder. One of my books has won a Regal Summit Award. Tell me what you can do for me that my publisher isn't already doing. Can you, and I start naming it off, can you create videos? Can you create ad copy? Can you create posts that go around the world on more than 30 different platforms? Can you have me as your co-host every week on an hour-long podcast? What can you do for me for free that my publisher's not already doing? Usually I never hear another word. Sometimes they'll write back if they're a decent person and say, this sounds great, I'm happy for you. If you ever decide you'd like to go the way of traditional publishing, hit me up.
On that same vein, ladies and gentlemen, in my community, there's a gentleman that works for HarperCollins. He does their fonts for their book covers that leave a lot to be desired. He has been watching us and our covers. He has made statements that he has noticed our covers. What you want to bet, in the not too far flung future, he's going to come to me and say, Yvonne, so-and-so from HarperCollins wants to talk to you. And I'm going to say it's going to cost them and they can't afford me.
Party on Yvonne, party on Yvonne.
My journey with this house is not to get rich. I'm already far richer than the richest person out there. And I hear people going, what? What? Let me explain it to you. Watching these authors who used to be writers, who used to say to themselves, I will never get out there. I will never be published. Watching their dreams become real. Watching their success because they are living that dream makes me the richest person in the world.
I had no idea how quickly you could do the children's books. And my graphic novels, my gosh, some of my books are just made for graphic novels.
And no other publishing house would do to her books what we do for her books here. They're short little books. They're in chapters. But each chapter has a graphic or two. And what I do with these authors, when I am formatting and editing their books, it's like a movie in my head. The book cover starts forming, and I will work with my program until I get the cover that I see in my head. I may work that cover several different ways.
Yeah, you did that with Ramonda's extended warranty.
Yes.
The first cover was great, but it didn't speak to me, and it didn't speak to you for long.
No.
And then you changed it, and it was like golden.
And the Lizard Patrol, he's just too cute.
Y'all, let me tell you, if you want to spend a few minutes just having fun, go to the Midnight Publishing website, midnight_publishing.org. Find our authors' names, and then go to Amazon and find the Audible books and click listen to a sample. Yvonne has made, she's so in tune with the authors and our voices and the voices within the book, because there's a difference. She took my Lizard Patrol and gave him a very sweet Southern gentleman accent. It's absolutely perfect. She took Margot Milburn's book, a British woman's accent, because she lives in the UK. Cornwall?
Cornwall.
She lives in Cornwall. And so, if the book has chapters, it can become audible. Every book that now there are some of my books that have similar, maybe the same narrator, and that's fine, because what she's doing is she's taking a voice that she attributes to me as the writer. She spent time with my son Aaron, listen to samples of the different voices, because he was so reticent to agree to AI for his Audible. He was absolutely insistent that, nope, I'm just going to sell enough books so that I can afford the $10,000 I need to pay to have an Audible book done by a professional with cinematic sounds in the background. He wanted it to sound like an old-timey radio show. Great if you got $10,000 or 1 million followers, might get it done for free. But he changed his mind one day and said, well, I still want a little control over it. And so she gave him that level of control and let him choose the voice that he thought was best. And she had already made a note. It was the same voice she had picked out. She knows what she's doing, and she does it, she makes it sound and look easy, but trust me, what she's doing is done out of love. Love for indie authors, love for the craft, and love for God. Because otherwise she wouldn't be doing it. She'd be charging.
Or I'd just be doing my books, and
Yeah.
I'd be writing the 2 books that are sitting on a shelf waiting me to finish. I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we have a new person in our family. It's Dr. Rock's Organized Chaos. He and his wife Michelle are going to be on our show in September. Well, yesterday I met with them down at our hall because they are starting a business, and that they do music bingo. That's part of their business that they do. But what they are starting is to sell the kids and teach people how to do it because there's a need for it. But they weren't sure how to go about it. So I say, do you have this? Do you have that? And they're, what? No. I said, okay, first of all, let's get down to basics. You got to get on social media. Well, no. We live in a technology world. Got all that worked out. So yesterday I met with them to see where they were. And we were discussing my queens. Now, those of y'all that have been around for a hot minute know about the queens. It's Lola. She owns the Pink Canary down in Key West. There's Penelope, who's the comic relief, who's a real person, who's Peter Fundura, my best friend. And then there is a real-life drag queen that I owe the popularity of these queens to, and that is Vicky Lane. She is in Inglewood now, or she was doing her show. She lives in Canada. She is the only drag queen that reached back when I reached out to start the Pink Canary. That being said, we're sitting down at the hall yesterday and Troy, who is the male portion of Dr. Rock's Organized Chaos, said, I want to be in one of your books as a queen. I said, okay. I have his drag names. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the
Does he know his name?
Yeah, he gave them to me.
Okay.
One of them is Torina, and the other one is Shamikawa Bum Bum. I said, okay. But that is the ultimate compliment, ladies and gentlemen, is people in your everyday life say, okay, put me in one of your books. It's humbling. And if I didn't love what I do, if I didn't love watching Christina and Linda and Mary and Roy and his wife Nita and Mary's son and Mary's brother and my cousin and her daughter and all these other authors that I have, A.L. Nightshade, if I didn't get joy out of watching them succeed, I'd say, sorry, y'all, I'm going back to doing what I do, which is all about me. It's not all about me. Because when I am no longer here, their books will be. Somebody else can take this and run with it. They will understand the mission of Midnight Publishing, the vision of Midnight Publishing, the love that is in this house. That's what is important. And the way that I will protect these authors like a mother bear on steroids. Don't mess with my authors. Because when you mess with my authors, you mess with me. And tell them, Mary.
It's never a pretty ending.
No, because there's a creature in me that comes out. Her name is Lola. And actually her name is Layla. And she's not pretty. I don't even like her. She's that ugly.
Yeah, when Yvonne starts calling out for the flying monkeys, we're in trouble.
Somebody is. And my kids are saying, I hope it isn't me this week. So I guess with that, we will leave you all. Christina, Linda, Helen, whoever the other person was, thank y'all for joining us in the chat room. We love you. We appreciate you. Can't wait to get Christina on tomorrow afternoon. Mary, as always, I love you. It's so much fun when we're together.
It is.
I give her ideas for books, and she cusses me when we hang up, but that's okay.
No, I don't.
So until tomorrow at 2 p.m., a special time, because Christina's in California, we will be right here. I will put up the link so people can join us in the chat room. I love you all. Thank you for allowing me to have the joy in my life.
Helen just said thanks. You're so welcome, Helen. You're in the queue. You'll get Owen, and the Red Fairy will be out before you know it.
Yeah, I just got to get all the people that were in front of you, honey, and then we'll get to you. And Christina, I'm working on your other two books a little at a time. Christina doesn't write novels. She writes epistles. She
writes tomes.
Yeah, the one I'm working on is 703 pages long. So it takes a hot minute to get through her books. But I'm doing it slowly because I want to get those other books out there, get people reading them. I don't want to give them too much too soon. So, yeah. So until tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, we will say, have the day you deserve.
Adios, everybody.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye.